to Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 13 of the AMA Supercross. Looking at the Suzuki track map, one characteristic on this most unusual track, David Bailey, is distance. 4,000 feet compared to the usual indoor track of about 1,500 feet.
That's right. I hope this show's not long enough for me to tell you all about this racetrack, and I hope you've got a big screen TV, because this track is huge, but it's also pretty muddy, and one part of the track that's not very big, that's the first corner. The guy that can get through there because of the muddy conditions quickly can have a huge advantage.
Right in the middle of the track. The qualifying procedure for Supercross doesn't change for sloppy tracks. Each rider runs in one of two qualifying heats, with the top four finishers getting direct transfer to the main event. They'll also get their pick of the better gate positions, of course. The rest of the field goes on to the semis, where the top five from each go to the main event, and then the remaining two gate positions left for the 20-rider field come out of the last chance qualifier. Here in the first qualifying heat, you see Doug Henry starting to jam things up. There's Kevin Windham, number 38. Ryan Hughes, the second man in the point standings, along with Jeff Emig, third in the point standings. Ezra Lusk, sixth. A good shot at the top five should he do well here tonight. Phil Lawrence, Larry Ward, Jimmy Button, Greg Albertine, Todd DeHoop. Just a few of the guys getting ready right now, as you see Emig starting to put on his goggles there at the starting line.
As you know, I think the way the stagger of the heat races, who ends up in which heat, it always changes from week to week, but it looks like this week the first heat is the toughest. There's a lot of guys in there, and inevitably some good riders are going to have to go straight to the semi. There's not enough room for the top four spots.
And I think you're going to see a lot of guys fighting really hard, because you don't want to be out there all night in this mud. You know, the wind has come out and dried the track off, and they've done a great job getting it ready, but you definitely want to make it in the first run.
30-second board is up. Let's go down to Marty.
Remember the last time that we were running in this kind of slop, it was Dallas over a year ago. Remember who won that race? Doug Henry. Keep an eye on number 15 in this heat race.
Always a good mudder, Rick Johnson.
Yeah, definitely. He comes from that part of the country where you get a lot of rain. He gets to practice in it, play in it, so he's comfortable. But this track, I hate to tell you, it is not a mud racing track anymore. They've cleaned up the slop. They've taken the whoop-de-doos out. So it's more or less a Supercross track. They've flattened out a lot of things.
Okay, the board is sideways now. Check that gate, and it's down. A good start for Emig, number 2. Albertine. Lawrence to the inside, number 13. It's Jeff Emig and Phil Lawrence. Lawrence also, he cased it early, but Lawrence had a good performance in that rainy Atlanta last year, where Doug Henry got his victory.
It looked like Ryan got out of the gate pretty good. He wasn't able to do the triple right there, so he's going to lose a spot to Albertine, but he kind of got a gift there from Lawrence. He looked like he was right directly behind Lawrence, and Lawrence cased it and was able to get around, move up front.
I think with this course being so fast, that this will probably be the best Supercross track for Greg Albertine. He's not afraid to drive real fast and brake really hard into turns, and I think that might help him in this kind of situation.
And let's face it, he had 3 world championships on tracks that could be similar to this, in that not the best of weather conditions, good speed tracks, sweeping turns, that type of track for the world championships.
And a couple of guys that we may be overlooking in the muddy situations is that perhaps Kevin Windham, who comes from Louisiana. He's used to riding in the mud, and also I think Greg Albertine as well, as like you just pointed out, like Doug Henry, is also very fast in the mud.
Okay, we have Emig in first, and Albertine in second, with Hughes in third, Lawrence in fourth, Jimmy Button in fifth, and remember, only the top 4 graduate to the main event out of this first qualifying heat.
As you look at Ryan Hughes, you see some things flapping from the side of his pants. He put some rags in there, so he can, if he does get into a muddy situation, he can pull them off, put them on the grips, and get some extra traction.
Vision is going to be a real problem tonight. You'll see that roost, we call it, flying up more than ever. That's the reason why these guys, Rick, as you pointed out earlier as we were talking, they're not going to want to follow anybody, so they may not develop into a one-line situation like I thought it might, because the track is starting to get drier. You'll see these top riders make a lot more mistakes than usual, and it's not because they're not very good, it's because the conditions out there are horrible. But as the races continue, I think they're going to work the track in each time they get a break in the action, especially through there and some of the tracks, sections where it's starting to get rutted, to hopefully provide better racing.
I think the rider that changes his lines and keeps looking for new lines, because as the grooves get big, you can move off to one side, maybe keep up a little more speed. So I think the smarter rider is definitely going to come out ahead, the one that is searching a little more for new lines.
Wyatt Seals, of course, looking anxiously, hoping that Ryan Hughes will pull up on second place. Greg Albertine, our leader, is Emig, number 2, out in front, and we'll be back with more qualifying action from the Charlotte Motor Speedway right after this. A 250 qualifying heat number 1 is underway with Emig out in front. Right now we're looking at Greg Albertine in second place and Hughes. Ryan Hughes number 5 as we switch over to Emig now in the lead. But Albertine and Hughes having a real battle, pulling up I think a little bit on Jeff Emig, guys.
Well, they're starting to find the lines a little bit. Emig just, he had the clear, clean racetrack. He didn't have any problem with his vision. He could go anywhere he wanted. Now the other guys, perhaps in a battle, trying to, Hughes is not satisfied with third place, and he's been fast in this long straightaway right here, approaching.
Here comes Hughes through that sand trap that they cleaned out to help the track, and he makes a nice clean pass on Albie. The best finish of a qualifying heat for Hughes or Albertine was second place this year.
Well, once you decide you're going to make that pass, you gotta get up there and make it stick, because if you follow the rider too closely, you're just going to get a face full of mud. You'll run out of vision. These guys have little tearaways they pull off. If you run out, you can't see. So you got to make that pass as soon as you catch up to the rider.
And Ryan Hughes is one of the kings of committing hard. You know, Ryan's a strong young rider. He's not afraid to get in there and get physical. So if he gets close to a rider, he is not going to hold back. He's going to stick his nose in there really hard.
Ryan really embarrassed by last week's fall from first place to fourth, but he says, I learned a lot, mainly to ride my own race, not care about anybody else's. So the pressure really started to play on his mind last week, David.
Well, as soon as he got into the lead, he started thinking about, oh, here's my chance to win. And, you know, when do you think you're going to beat McGrath? And he knew that was his chance. And he put himself under way too much pressure instead of just getting the job done. I felt like if Ryan could have just pretended like it was Wednesday and he was out riding with Jeremy, just kind of horsing around, Jeremy would have never caught him that quickly. He may never have passed him. And he's learned that lesson. It won't happen again.
Hughes in second place as Wyatt Seals looks for his rider to come around to the mechanics area.
And now you see that the mechanics have headsets on. All factory teams have a spotter up here so they can see at all ends of the track in case a rider goes down, breaks something. They can start heading back to the pits maybe to get something fixed or get it ready for the next heat. So that's what that communication is all about. It's not to the riders, but so that the spotters can tell the mechanics what's going on the track.
Hughes is starting to pick up the pace now. He's gotten very close to Emig. But again, Hughes has had to follow Albertine around, so he's running out of tearaways to get that clear vision. Now he's going to follow his teammate, and he's going to run out even quicker. So if he does catch up to him, he's going to have to take completely different lines, which may open up possibility for Albertine to get back under there.
We've seen the top 3 battle back and forth here in this qualifying heat, but of course Ezra Lusk fans would be happy to learn that he is clearly in 4th place, the final transfer spot to the main event, number 34 on the Suzuki. Right now this is Ryan Hughes in 2nd place, and he's looking strong on the jumps.
What if I was Ryan right now, what I'd be focusing on is watching every move that Jeff Emig makes. If I could pass him, I'd pass him, but if he has some different lines, I think I would try him this last lap, so I'd have something a little extra up my sleeve.
This is the final white flag lap now for the qualifying round. The order has remained the same. Look at the great crowd here in Charlotte. That's a compliment to Supercross after the tremendous tornado-like winds we had earlier, and especially the tremendous downfall of rain.
This is racing country. They come out here for stock car racing, and they're definitely going to come out for Supercross as well. So much, I really commend these people from Southeast. They're racing fans.
And of course, the guy getting the biggest ovation when they introduced earlier to the fans while we were waiting for the action to start was Damon Bradshaw coming back. This is his native land.
So this is a section right through here now that I'm noticing. That's where Emig makes up a lot of his time. When they get around, go across in front of the starting line past the mechanics area. Emig's quick through there, but they seem to get a little closer as they approach the finish line, and that might be bad news for Jeff. But right now he's got a comfortable lead.
Ironically, Emig seems to be making time on the straightaways. You look at it and think, how can someone make time on the straightaways? Well, obviously, he's doing something right on the jumps right before the long straightaways or the turns right before, because he seems to pull out a good 2-3 bike lengths every straightaway.
Jeff Emig on his way to winning this qualifying heat with his teammate Ryan Hughes in 2nd place and Greg Albertine in 3rd. Ezra Lusk is still quite a ways back in 4th place. Here's the checkered flag waving for Jeff Emig. 1, 2, and 3. Boom, boom, boom.
Ryan Hughes right there.
The first checkered flag of the day going to Jeff Emig. Marty Reed will be with him when we return. North Carolina. These are the riders that have earned their way, and a hot shower, really, probably before the main event here in Charlotte, North Carolina. In the opening qualifying round, Emig, Hughes, Albertine, and Lusk going to the main event, and that means, of course, Wyndham, Ward, Henry, Lawrence, just some of those who did not make it and will go on to the semifinal round. Let's go down trackside to Marty Reed.
Hey, we're going to show you the best benefits of a good start. Take a look at the front here of Jeff Emig. Hey, even the back, I mean, he is cleaner than I am. I mean, these guys have been roosting us all along the mechanics line. Tell us what it's like out there. Good run.
Well, you know, it's good in one line. I think that when you get outside of that line, that it's really tricky. The lights are a little bit funny, you know, like in some of the corners too. But yeah, but definitely, you know, a good start helps. And you know, and the KX250 Kawasaki that they built me, I mean, you know, the thing's awesome. It works good in the mud, as you can see. You know, I just ripped, you know, a gnarly of a start out of that, and that's going to be a big key tonight. That, you know, and I think with tire choice, you know, Bridgestone, they've really been on it, you know, and they've been helping us with some really great tires, and I think that's going to be a big difference.
Well, we'll see him in the main. He was getting lap times of about 1:39, guys. Also, we'll update you quickly on Ryan Hughes. Right at the end, he took a case hard at the finish line. He did walk off, and it looked like he was okay. We'll update you before the main event.
Rick Johnson just relaxing a little bit after going over the checkered flag.
I think that's what happened. He was really focusing on catching Jeff Emig. He came over the finish line right behind him, and I think just let off a little bit, came up short, and then bounced him off the bike.
Here in our qualifying heat number 2, you see Skip Norfolk leaning in to talk to the champion Jeremy McGrath, along with Mike LaRocco, Damon Bradshaw, Brian Swink, Michael Craig, Michael Brown, Kyle Lewis, Buddy Antonez, Denny Stevenson. Some of the names you'll recognize immediately as we see there, number 28, Damon Bradshaw. I think it'll be interesting to see how Bradshaw reacts before his home fans here. The stadium, of course, holds a lot more people than the old Charlotte Memorial Stadium ever thought of holding, and they turned out to see Supercross in grand style here tonight.
For Damon Bradshaw, I think, you know, he's got a lot of incentive to do well here, of course. He's won in Charlotte Memorial Stadium before in front of his family, friends, and all the people he grew up with. They never really got to see him race. They had to watch it on TV or travel to a race, which rarely happened. And he's going to have a lot of incentive to do well here. And I think it's all going to come down to the start. We just saw in Heat 1 how important the start was. McGrath right there, anticipating another pole shot. Actually hasn't been getting off the line very good lately. So find out in a short. That
could definitely be a factor here, because if you get off to a bad start and you do get a bunch of mud piled in your helmet and mess up your tear-off system, you're going to be fighting it the rest of the night.
Yeah, good starts. Always a McGrath specialty. They deserted him lately, as you mentioned, David. Last 3 races, no higher than 6th when he passed the finish line.
But it's been making it better for us up here. I'd rather see him come from behind, and that's probably a little more gratifying to him as well, and a little bit more demoralizing for everyone else.
He doesn't know what the story is, but he's not going to change anything yet.
And it looks like he's got a tear-off system on top of his helmet. I think we'll probably see that as the night continues, but all that mud gets caught up there, and your helmet gets so heavy it pushes it down, then you're having to kind of tilt your head up to see underneath your visor, and once you can tear that off of there, you get
32nd board just now going up. Marty Reed.
Well, guys, I was listening to Jeremy McGrath, you know, before the race starts. They introduced him to the crowd, and he did not have that typical air of confidence. He said tonight, yeah, I think I can win, but it sounded like the track and the conditions might be the great equalizer. Remember, in that first heat race, the lap time that we saw on the board was 1:39. Maybe we'll get an indication here real soon.
Well, you know, when Jeremy's coming up to this race, and he doesn't want to jinx himself, so he doesn't want to be overconfident. I think that's the key right there, and he doesn't want anybody against him.
Okay, the 32nd board goes sideways. Let's see what kind of a start the champion can get here in the second qualifying round of the evening. Swink, a good start on the inside 23, but Jeremy McGrath pours it to the first corner, edging out Damon Bradshaw, number 28. It's Larry Ward to the inside, but Jeremy McGrath out in front as they hit that straightaway, and the power of the Honda takes away.
Boy, all he had was about a wheel length, and he just moved over, leaned in on everybody, and look at the lead he enjoys now. Mike Brown looks like he's going to be able to hang with him, but already everyone's reaching for tear-offs.
That's my correction, too. Mike Brown of Honda of Troy, number 9, not Larry Ward, number 6.
It's Team Honda of Troy right now, basically running for second place.
Jeremy McGrath out in front here in the heat.
You know, Jeremy right now, what he's going to do, in my opinion, he's just going to go out and feel the track out. He's got a good little cushion, maybe 2-3 seconds there. Now he can just feel the track and look around for the main event.
Swank has moved up into 3rd place, but Mike Brown holding good speed behind Jeremy McGrath.
A little mistake there from Jeremy. You don't normally see that. I mentioned before, we probably see these guys making mistakes. And Jeremy right there making one that's very rare. But it's to be expected. I don't think you can go out there thinking you're not going to make any. And as long as you know that, you'll be fine.
Bradshaw went down and is in back about 10th place position. So it looks like he might have to go to the semifinal round if something miraculous doesn't happen in front of Damon. Number 1, Jeremy McGrath with the big lead as we come to complete lap number 1 here in our qualifying round. As we mentioned, the laps were cut back because of the weather conditions. This is a 4-lap qualifying round.
Right now, Skip Norfolk just cool and calm as ever. You know, that man's, you got to owe a lot of this championship and this consistent winning season to him. I mean, he's had no mechanical failures. Not one thing has gone wrong with his bike. So, you know, everybody's been commending Jeremy, but Skip has done a great job keeping that bike underneath him.
Yeah, Skipper doesn't sleep before a race. He dreams about all those nuts and bolts. Goes over the bike 1,000 times when he's trying to sleep there.
I think he dreams about winning. And Swink, number 23, a good rider in the mud. I remember watching him in Daytona when he was riding 125s, and the mud didn't even faze him. He jumped everything. He was just as fast as the 250s, so he may be able to do pretty good here tonight.
Brian Swink currently holding down 3rd place as Jeremy McGrath is taking away in front of Mike Brown, the 1st and 2nd place riders. Brian Swink, number 23. We'll be back with more qualifying action from Charlotte, North Carolina after these words. Qualifying heat for the 250s. Heat number 2 is underway. Our leader, Jeremy McGrath. But look at the Honda of Troy riders. Mike Brown, Brian Swink, and Michael Craig battling it out for the top qualifying spots. Buddy Anthony is in 5th. He's going to have to pick up a lot of ground before he hopes to qualify out of this round.
Swink trying to make up some time right there. The riders are starting to experiment around by jumping. There's some rhythm sections out there, plateaus and doubles and triples, and they're trying to do them different ways where they don't have to hit all the ruts on the takeoff. Swink with a different idea. He's doubling that right there, doubling that into the corner. Starting to find some good lines here and there, but he's not putting it all together. And out in front of these guys, McGrath has got it together. He is gone.
Definitely. Jeremy's flowing through the turns, and I think that's the key here, because if you look, the top 4 guys are doing all the jumps the same, but if you watch Jeremy, he doesn't have little hiccups in the turns, and when he commits to something, he flows through it, and I think that's the key to him driving away with this heat right now.
Brian Swink, I should say, took a 7th place last year in Charlotte on the smaller track, but he's coming off his best finish of the year, a 5th place finish. Jeremy McGrath halfway through the qualifying round, gaining cheers from the fans.
Starting to ignite the crowd now a little bit, wheeling here and there. He's starting to throw the bike sideways. Look at that, waving to the crowd. Look at that, is such a symbol of confidence.
Let's go down trackside to Marty Reed.
Well, guys, we were talking about those lap times. We may have the making of a really good race, because his first lap was a 1:39. That equals exactly Jeff Emig's best lap. And then he stepped it up to a 1:38 on the second time by. And here he comes on number 3. And I got to be honest, I'm going to have to start all over again because I took my head away from him and forgot to push the button.
Well, I think lap times aren't going to be a key right now. You know, I mean, it puts us in a ballpark, but you have Jeff Emig, who was being chased, and now you have Jeremy McGrath, who's out in front. So it could work to the advantage of either rider. You know, Jeremy may be relaxed and be able to pull further away, but then again, Jeff Emig might have been running as hard as he could.
Right now, it looks like Jeremy's having a lot of fun. He's testing the lines out a little bit. Look at that, all the way through that corner, over those jumps, feet on the pegs. And earlier, they were jumping off of the top of that plateau over both of those jumps, electing just to go for one, but I believe Jeremy, maybe a few other guys, could jump that entire section by the time main event rolls around.
Here's Mike Brown in 2nd place. Brown, he's looking for a good sustained effort here tonight. He's had good starts on the season, but hasn't been able to hold up later in the races.
Last lap, Jeremy's got a big lead. He's playing around. He's pointing to the crowd. He's doing cross-ups. He's typical Jeremy McGrath championship form.
This could be the best finish for Mike Brown as we take a look at the final lap on the season as far as qualifying is concerned, as Brian Swink is a good 2.5 seconds behind him in 3rd.
I think anytime when you got a little bit of muddy conditions like this, I think it's going to get better as the night continues. Right now, it's still pretty muddy, and it allows different guys that perhaps don't run up front. This is, like you pointed out, Mike's best run. Maybe he likes the mud, and there's probably a few other guys just like Mike that'll get up there and make the results look a little weird to some people that didn't show up here. They're going to hear about this and go, what? Phil Lawrence got third. You know, it really opens it up, makes the much more level playing field. But for Jeremy, it's the same old thing, plus 10 right there. So obviously a lot faster than his competition.
Disappointing ride again for Mike LaRocco, back in about 5th or 6th position now. And he's a long way away from qualifying in the 4th.
See, you watch Jeremy through the turns. He's not getting excited. He's not trying to accelerate too hard. He's just being real smooth and flowing with the track. And I feel that's going to be the key tonight, because when you get the, time in the jumps and the grooves in the turns, you're really going to have to flow with the track and not work against it.
We'll watch him on this last lap here. He's approaching the triple. Figured it. I figured he would do something there. The crowd's been getting a little louder as it was coming into the last lap there. So
he's headed to the finish line. The checkered flag is out. Jeremy McGrath, the top qualifier out of our 2nd heat. And that gives us a little indication of what the traction's like when he can play to the crowd like that in a qualifying heat. We'll be back. Art Ekman, David Bailey, Rick Johnson, and Marty Reed for round 13 of Supercross action from Charlotte Motor Speedway. A look at the Suzuki results. Top 4 from Heat 2 making it into the main event. Once again, Marty is with Jeremy McGrath.
Well, guys, I got to ask you right off the bat, you got a great start, but you really looked like the longer this race went, the easier it seemed to be for you. You really were smooth out there.
Well, it's kind of muddy, so you got to kind of pick your way around, and start's definitely important, just like always. I tried to get a good start. I had to run it in kind of deep to someone on my outside, but once you get out in front, you kind of just pick your way, and it's great.
As far as comparing your heat with Jeff Emmich, your first lap was almost identical, but we just checked with the team. They said your heat was 8 seconds quicker for 5 laps than him. Does that make you feel good?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that shows that I'm running good, and I wasn't really riding over my head, so if I get another good start like that, I think I have it in me.
That's a frightening thought, guys, when he says I'm not over my head and he's flying up there 40 feet.
Oh, you're absolutely correct, Marty. As we take another look at Jeremy McGrath, he's got all the confidence in the world, in this track right now is very easy for him.
Well, it's pretty amazing when you watch guys struggling and going down. LaRocco and Bradshaw having to come from behind. Bradshaw going down. Everyone having problems, but still, week after week, doesn't matter what the conditions are. Jeremy knacking his way to another victory with ease, pulling away from the field and acting like he's got more under the hood.
The semifinals, always exciting racing, coming up next.
In our Honda flashback this week, it's 1995 right here in Charlotte, and in the main event, Jeff Emmich pulling the hole shot on the Yamaha. But back in the pack, LaRocco, who had come up short on one of the big jumps, injured his arm above the wrist, which took him out for the race and the rest of the season. But out front, it was number 4, Henry, challenging Emmich for the lead and going down right here on that slick clay. That handed the lead over to Jeff Emmich, but it didn't last long. Steve Lamson, who had worked his way into second from a mediocre start, passes Jeff Emmich for the lead on the outside, but his lead didn't last long either. Number 1, McGrath, who had suffered a terrible start, worked his way all the way into second on the inside right here in the last lap, takes over the lead from his teammate Lamson, and would pick up another win, the closest margin of his 10 victories in 1995.
What a great race to close the book on Supercross at Memorial Stadium here in Charlotte, as we are now at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Art Ekman, David Bailey, Rick Johnson, along with Marty Reed trackside, who takes care of those interviews down there in the, well, it must be a little warmer down there, and must be glad that the water faucet turned off.
Yeah, we had quite a storm here earlier, but I don't consider this a mud race anymore, so I don't think that there's any factors that are going to change this Supercross event.
They've done a wonderful job with the track. There you see Phil Lawrence, top privateer in the points list, 7th. Jimmy Button, Kevin Windham will be in this one. Doug Henry, Larry Ward, Doug Dubach, Michael Jones, and this will be the first semifinal round. Let's go down to Marty.
You guys mentioned Larry Ward. Remember, back in Dallas, he finished 3rd in the main there and 4th at Indy, but he slipped a little bit back at Tampa, and I just had a chance to look at him, and he gave me thumbs up. Looks like he feels pretty confident coming into this one.
I was just noticing on the back of Larry Ward's jersey, for anybody who's wondering what was going on there, it looked like he was wearing Mike Brown's jersey, number 9, and he put a background upside down, so it was a 6 over the top of it. So these muddy conditions, the riders run out of riding gear.
Okay, we're almost set to go for the first semifinal round, and they're out of the gate right now. Phil Lawrence with a pretty good start on the inside. He closes off Doug Henry, and on the outside is number 45, Doug Dubach, who has one Supercross win on the year. Spurting out in front, Kevin Windham, number 38.
Looks like that might be Doug Dubach crawling off the racetrack. Yeah, it is, number 45. Well, he got tangled with some guys going through those 4 jumps in the beginning. There's that roll-off film. It came out of his goggles, so he's out for this heat race, or semi, rather. And Wyndham has already got a pretty comfortable lead.
Kevin Wyndham, Lawrence, and then Larry Ward, along with Doug Henry, Jimmy Button, and Doug DeHoop, I should say.
I'm wondering if someone ran over Doug's hand because he's holding it, grasping it. You don't want to see that, but Kevin Wyndham, a strong 125 rider, now showing a strong presence on 250 as well. So I think we're going to see great things out of this young man.
Kevin might get a challenge from Larry Ward, who on the straightaway through the shallow sand picked up a lot of room on number 38.
Well, he's still got to get around Phil Lawrence, who has been riding pretty good. He wants to close out the season, hopefully slide into maybe that top 4, 4th overall in the standings now that Huffman's not here. He might be able to do that, but he's going to have to battle Ezra Lusk.
Phil Lawrence, number 13, and Larry Ward, number 6. A good battle going on for second place.
This is something you don't usually see in Supercross, but it's a nice obstacle to have. A long straightaway where you got to brake hard, so a lot of technique is involved there, but see, to the average person that wants to see jumps and bumps, you don't see that.
You can see Larry Ward as they went over the triple. He was to the inside of Lawrence, and he crossed all the way over to the outside, trying to stay out of that roost, and it looked like it worked out pretty good. He much faster line through there.
Ward taking into second place, 4 seconds behind Kevin Wyndham out in front. Larry Ward, then Phil Lawrence, and Doug Henry starting to pick up on Phil Lawrence.
Well, it's still pretty muddy out there. I agree with Rick. It's not that much of a mud race anymore, especially considering how much rain we had and how bad the track looked about an hour ago. But I think a lot of people were looking at Henry like, hey, you got to be glad it's raining. And he had a smile on his face, but he had a lot of trouble in the heat race and still back in the pack here. So if you can't get off the line, it doesn't matter how good you're riding, you got a lot of work to do to get to the front.
What's unbelievable is how much these riders are spreading out. I don't know if it's the mud or the speed or if a combination of both, but if you notice, the riders aren't real close together. Kevin Wyndham, you got about 15 bike lengths, then you got Larry Ward, then you go all the way back to Phil Lawrence, and then to Doug Henry. So the race is spreading out much more than we usually see in Supercross.
Part of that may be because of the fact there's not that many technical obstacles for riders to make up or lose that much time. Everyone's just going up and down these long straightaways. Everyone goes about the same pace.
Little mistake by Phil Lawrence, and Doug Henry catching up to him, trying the inside. Phil breaks away. We'll be back with more semifinal action from Charlotte, North Carolina after this. Semifinal number 1 is underway from Charlotte Motor Speedway. The top 5 riders out of this round qualifying for the main event. Out in front, as you saw, Wyndham, and then Larry Ward in second place. This is our 3rd place rider, Phil Lawrence, number 13.
And he's got a little bit of company from Doug Henry, who's at times been really close, pulled up next to him, but has been unable to get around Phil. Henry, I think, you know, a lot of, like I mentioned before we went to the break, a lot of people were expecting him to do well in the mud, but what's happening is it's getting dry here and there. It's forcing sort of a one-line situation, and when you do get up to the back of the rider, it's really difficult to pass because you got to go out in them where it's still muddy to do it.
I just put a stopwatch on Kevin Wyndham. He did a 132. Now, Jeff Emming was doing 139, so we might see this kid surprise some people tonight.
Oh, boy. Wyndham planning another year in 125 Western action with lots of 250 races next year in the busier Eastern Division. He wants to graduate to that premier division, guys ready to win, or at least confident that he can compete with the best before going totally into 250s.
Well, yesterday he was the first guy in the practice sessions to jump this quadruple jump that's right coming out of the first corner. He was one of the first guys to do the jump right there, to jump all the way over both those jumps coming off that plateau. And he was really just the measuring stick for a lot of the other riders, seeing what he was jumping, and he looked fantastic. And now
heel clicker, oh my goodness, in this track condition.
A lot of confidence in this kid, and you know, I haven't seen the kind of performance on the 250 from him that I thought I would have, but tonight may be the night.
Checkered flag for Kevin Wyndham, and certainly a feather in his cap winning this semifinal round here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll be right back and hear from Kevin Wyndham himself as Marty Reed is making his way over to the podium right now after these words.
Winning a single Supercross is no easy feat. Jeremy McGrath has won shifts in a row. For Honda, that makes 8 straight. Are you up for that?
Ekman, David Bailey, Rick Johnson, and Marty Reed braving the trackside elements down on the track. These 5 riders making the move to the main event. I would imagine that well, they're pretty happy that they don't have to go back on that track condition as far as the last chance qualifier is concerned. But his first checkered flag of the season for 250s anyway, Marty, is Kevin Windham.
That's right. It is his first time up here in the semifinal victory lane position, but you had a second in the heat back at Tampa. It looks as though, and tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, according to our lap times, the track may be getting a little drier, a little better.
Yeah, the lines are starting to establish a lot better. It's you know, getting some hard grooves in places, and we're able to do a lot of the jumps, and you know, the track's definitely getting better as the night goes on.
Now, a couple of the guys have mentioned that there are certain spots that lighting comes into play. Are you finding that to be the case?
Yeah, there's a few sections that have a little bit or need a little bit more lighting, but you can see the ruts, and it's not that bad. So you know, once you get a rut, it's pretty good. But you know, you could be a little brighter, but it's not that bad.
So do you think this track will get even better before the main?
Yeah, it's definitely getting harder, and more lines are starting to establish. It should turn around and be, you know, it's going to be a little wet, but it's going to continue to get better.
Kevin Windham, your winner in semi number 1.
Well, we saw him do that hill clicker in the replay right there. He saw Mike Metzger do it and was very impressed. And then guys, just trial and error during practice. He said one time his hand came off the handlebar. Next time he got his heel caught on the handlebar, but was able to ride them both out.
I'm impressed with that kid. It doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He's always smiling. He's young, and he's got obviously a lot of natural talent. He's good on the 125 and the 250. I think he's going to be around for a long time.
Mike LaRocco having to go to the semifinal round to try to qualify for the main event out of South Bend, Indiana, from Team Suzuki. Not having the season that he had hoped for. Of course, coming back with reconstructive knee surgery at the very beginning of the season. I think he was probably around 75%. He wouldn't admit it, but I don't think he came back physically because of that tremendous operation he had. He's had 3 third-place finishes, and there's Damon Bradshaw, number 28, of course, the hometown favorite here in North Carolina.
Oh, I know he'd like to redeem himself from that heat race where he didn't get off to too bad of a start, but then he went down, had to come from behind, and you see that determined look in his eye. I'm not sure if that's anger or determination, maybe a little bit of both.
Also, Buddy Anthonez, Kyle Lewis, Ty Wallace, Greg Schnell, Gene Newmack, Denny Stevenson, Cliff Palmer, some of the other names we'll be looking for here to qualify for the main event out of the second semifinal round.
And Larry Brooks, the team manager for Chaparral, sitting out for his body heals up. He's been through quite a lot, and I think he's going to make an excellent team manager. Larry has ridden forever on all different kinds of bikes and many different levels of motocross racing competition, and I think he has a lot of advice to offer these young guys coming up.
He was always a good promoter for himself in the privateer ranks, able to get sponsorship money and so forth, and is very good at communicating with the riders as well.
Well liked by everyone. The sign is sideways.
And we're just about set for the second semifinal round of the 250s here in Charlotte, and they're off. LaRocco with a good start, but on the outside, at number 37 is Ty Wallace, but it is 28, Damon Bradshaw.
Crowd's liking that, so LaRocco looked like he had the lead. Gone down the first corner. He's going to have to come from last. But the crowd is pretty excited. Bradshaw already into a big lead, jumping the triple.
Boy, you couldn't write the Hollywood script any better with Bradshaw breaking out on top here in the semifinal round number 2 after a miserable qualifying try where he went down.
Well, I don't think he needed to have a fire lit under him. I think he was going fast in the heat race. He just had to come from behind. Here, he's going to get to play it up to the crowd. I don't think he's going to get a challenge from anyone. You can't even see anybody behind him yet, and he'll be able to show off a little bit and find his rhythm here tonight. He'll need that before he goes into the main event.
Definitely. I think that Damon's key. Damon has always been a very emotional rider. He gets when he's up, he's very up. When he's down, he's very down. So this is going to help him for the main event.
He has a 6-second lead, and you see Buddy Anthonez just getting up.
A lot of riders going down. It's so slick out there, and especially in the first lap where you're forced to ride somewhere other than in that nice hard-packed dry line that you heard Windham talk about, and you find yourself going down real quick.
We'll be back to see if Damon Bradshaw can hold on and take the checkers in a moment. Okay, we're back in Charlotte, North Carolina with semifinal action qualifying right now. LaRocco starting to move up, number 8 on your screen, trying to get into qualifying position to the top 5. Rick?
You know, LaRocco has done a phenomenal job. That just shows the determination. He was down in the first turn. When he got up, those guys were gone. They were a good 6 seconds ahead of him. Now he's already worked his way almost into qualifying.
Well, I think that the fact that the competition in this heat, now I'm not putting down any of the guys that are in this heat, but the caliber of Mike LaRocco compared to who he's in here with in the semi, he's going to carve through these guys. The question is, can he get off the line in the main event? I know he can come from behind and see him do it just about every week, but if he can get a good start, he's riding good enough in these conditions to be a real threat for the podium.
Well, David, he did get a good start. He just got knocked down on those first section of bumps, but I just took a lap time on Damon Bradshaw, and he is 3 seconds slower than Kevin Windham, but I think Damon's out there just playing it cautious, playing it smooth, because he's got a big lead, no one even close to challenging him, and here he comes up on the last lap, so he's just taking his time and just saving that energy for the main event.
We're seeing Denny Stevenson, and Mike LaRocco cuts inside, gets away from Denny Stevenson. Mike LaRocco up another spot.
That was an excellent line from LaRocco. Set that up coming down the straightaway, just cut to the inside and gassed it.
He's in third, behind Newmark.
Closed out Stevenson, and the crowd's starting to get excited about his comeback. I think he's going to be able to, he's got plenty of time to catch Newmark before the end of this race.
Yeah, with these laps being so long, you get a minute and a half to chase somebody down. And a lot of times that's close to 3 laps in some of the smaller Supercross tracks.
Well, we're going to have a lot of good talent going to the last chance qualifier in situations like this. Depth of talent improving this year after you get by the domination of Jeremy McGrath.
Yeah, this is a pleasant surprise. It's not as really a surprise, but this is a good feeling to see Damon Bradshaw win in his hometown. So I think not only for this main event, but I think it's going to carry him through the year because when he's at home, people are going to talk about him. And if, you know, regardless of what he does in the main event now, he's won this semi, and they'll have something to talk about.
The crowd's on their feet. They're going bananas. Bradshaw starting the season with a third and a second, getting on the podium twice, but then suffered some really tough rounds. 19th. 11th place, 7th, 8th, and then came back with a 2nd place at Daytona, equaling his best 250 performance ever there.
There he goes over the triple. Not much of, I thought he might do something. A little wheelie, though. Trying to get the crowd excited. Didn't have to do much. They're already excited. This has got to feel good for Damon. Although it's only a semi, it's still a victory.
Checkers. Damon Bradshaw, and the flash bulbs pop from the stands, all but 2 of the 250 main event gate positions have been filled. Marty talks with our semifinal winner number 2, Damon Bradshaw, when we return. Up top, Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Rick Johnson. Down below, Marty Reed from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. As you see, the semifinal results from heat number 2, Damon Bradshaw, Gene Newmack. He has now qualified for his 9th event on the season. Mike LaRocco, after the first turn crash, out of the first turn, comes all the way back to pick off 3rd. Stevenson and Antonez also qualified. Marty, let's hear from you.
Well, chief mechanic for Damon Bradshaw put on the board on lap 2, enjoy. Could you hear that crowd? They were going nuts.
Yeah, I sure could. It felt real good, and I would like for that to be in the main event and maybe be able to take the checker flag like I did there and have these people behind me. That's there's nothing, can't even explain that feeling, and I haven't had that feeling in a long time.
How much harder is the main going to be?
It's going to be tough. You know, start's going to be the name of the game. There's not a whole lot of room out there to pass, and main deal is just going to be a good start and stay clean.
Well, no last chance qualifier for Damon Bradshaw, and as you said up there in the booth, he's already king of the hill as far as the Charlotte fans are concerned. We'll see him in the main.
Okay, Marty, reliving some of the memories anyway from 1990 when he took the championship here in Charlotte on that Yamaha. Before our 125 main event, it's time for a Suzuki riding trip with Pat Alexander. Cycle industry. While we were away, the 250 last chance qualifier concluded with Michael Jones of Export, Pennsylvania, and Kyle Lewis of Rosamond, California, getting the final 2 gate positions for the 250 main event. Marty Reed, incidentally, went on a mission back in the pits to find the banged-up 250 rider, Ryan Hughes.
Well, right at the end of his heat race, Ryan Hughes cased it hard. You can see the damage on his chin. Bring me up to date. What all is wrong, and how are you feeling?
I put a hole in my chin, about 1 inch wide. Chipped, I think, 3 teeth, and I don't know. To me, it feels like I might have broke my jaw.
And you're going to ride?
Yeah, I'm going to give it. I'm going to try.
Are you going to be able to put the helmet on? Have you tried that yet?
Yeah, I put the helmet on, and it feels all right. So I'm going to, you know, go out there, and if I feel good, I'm going to race. If I don't, then, you know, I'm going to have to pull off and try not risking anything.
Well, guys, as we found out so many times, that's why they're on the bikes. That's why we're here. It's a different breed to be able to get on these things when you're this banged up. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Art Ekman along with David Bailey and Rick Johnson up top with Marty Reed down on trackside. And gentlemen, 125s are on the track right now, kind of getting that parade lap to see what's happened to the track this evening.
When you've been out there, you know, you ran your heat, all these different races have been on the track, and so you've just been in relaxing, waiting for your main event. So when they go out on the track, it's very important for them to look for passing lines, how the lighting is affecting them, and also just to get warmed up. So some riders go out and be a little aggressive, other guys just like to take it easy.
Our Suzuki starting grid, noting out that Mikel Pichon, Robbie Skaggs, big surprise, top qualifier out of Heat 1. John Dowd, Davey Yezik, Corey Keeney, Scott Sheik, Barolio, Ramsey, Bogart, Karsten, Deegan, LaRusso, some of the riders here from the 125 main event. Of course, Mikel Pichon, number 1, the charming youngster from Le Mans, France, has the chance tonight to clinch his second consecutive 125 Eastern crown for Split Fire Pro Circuit. And of course, Mitch Payton couldn't be happier.
Yeah, definitely. Mitch has had a dominating 125 team since it started back in, I think it was 1990, with Jeremy McGrath winning back-to-back championships there as well. But one thing about this main event is that they have shortened it because of the length of the track. You know, most lap times are just under a minute or so, but out here they're a minute and a half, and on these 125s they could be close to almost 2 minutes. So a shortened main event, in this is a little bit more of a motocross style race than a Supercross.
15 laps instead of 20. John Dowd, of course, looking for his second win in a row. He would love to end the season with a victory.
He sure would. You just got to look at Pichon right there practicing his start, and I was going to point out that the start tonight, because of the shortened main event, is going to be extremely important, also because of the vision. And on that parade lap, it's a little different than usual because it's muddy. A couple of the guys stayed on the gate. They didn't want to go out and ride around the track. They figured they'd seen enough, and you could really make some enemies out there by gassing it in front of somebody and giving them a face full of mud before they even get to go off the gate.
Yeah, there's John Dowd. I want to correct something too. It's 10 laps instead of 15 for the 125s. Our 250 main coming up later has been sliced 5 laps from 20 to 15 laps.
Whenever you get a muddy situation, sometimes I would hang back, because when you go cruise around and you're flinging mud up under your fenders and clogging your knobbies up, you're adding weight to your bike, and like I say, you're filling up your tires, so that could hinder your starting. So it'd be interesting to see what happens here. You look at Michael Pichon's front wheel, you can't even see the knobbies. It's just one big brown tire, so it's going to be interesting. You look at 2 different starting styles here as well. You got John Dowd with a deep groove and Michael Pichon with the packed in groove. So let's see who gets to the first turn first.
Pichon would love to wrap up the crown tonight, saying to us earlier that I would have no pressure to go out for the win in the East-West confrontation coming up next week in St. Louis with Kevin Windham, whereas I would have to be careful about the point situation if something drastic could happen here tonight. John Dowd would love to stay in the hunt. Great crowd here in Charlotte, North Carolina, in their first appearance for Supercross here at the Motor Speedway.
You see that Ramsey's mechanic's got an extra pair of goggles. He doesn't need goggles. That's in case Ramsey comes in, needs to make a goggle change. These guys can do that. They'll lose time, but they feel like they can make up a lot more time than they lose by making that change and having the mud out of their face and clear vision for the rest of the race.
We saw Scott Sheik and a couple of those riders like Ramsey trying to move up in the points.
A lot of riders will put on a set of goggles with no tear off so they can get a real clear look at the track when they go out for the parade lap. So a lot of times mechanics will carry them, but most of the time they're carrying the spare set that they ran on the parade lap.
30-second board is up. It has not gone sideways yet. That's when the riders get nervous time or get concentrated and focused, knowing that gate's going to drop at any second. Okay, it is sideways. You hear the rev. And they're off. Pichon at the point gets squirrely. He touched bikes with the Dowd, and out in front 25 is Deegan.
And right behind him 72.
Grayson Goodman yes.
Came from nearly, he was the second from the far outside, so a great start from Grayson. They both get over the triple, no problem. That's really they're gonna separate themselves from the rest of the field. Pichon, although it wasn't a great start, it appears to be that he's off ahead of John Dowd, so he'll just keep tabs on that and work his way into the lead as patiently as possible.
Deegan, Goodman, and Parolio, the top 3 riders, as Mikel Pichon making his way up through the track, and there's John Dowd, number 7.
What I think you're going to see is Michael Pichon keeping tabs on John Dowd. If he knows he doesn't have him right behind him, he's going to take a little more time at picking these guys off. But if John Dowd was right behind him, you'd think he might be making some stronger push.
All righty, Mikel Pichon in 4th place. Banging a little bike in that tight turn this time with Parolio.
Michael Pichon getting stuck in behind the number 4 rider. But now, as you see, the first place rider has pulled out quite a lead.
Skaggs in first place. Robbie Skaggs.
So he won his qualifier, and he won the preliminary qualifier. This kid's been on fire all night. And I was watching practice earlier, and I was thinking that kind of just had my eyes on Pichon, and he looked pretty fast. He took about 3 laps pretty quick, and then all of a sudden I realized that Skaggs had been behind him the whole time. So this kid's got the speed to do it.
Yes, he comes across the finish line in first place with Deegan in second place.
And that's good for Skaggs, too, because I think eventually, I mean, although Deegan's been riding better and better, and he's riding fine right here, I have a feeling just from the races in the past that Pichon will be able to get around him maybe later in the race. But until he gets around him, he's really unable to put any kind of pressure on Skaggs. That'll give him a little breathing room. He'll be able to relax out there and not be worried about leading his first Supercross.
Pichon already within 2 bike lengths and closing fast on second place. There you see Deegan in second place. Pichon looking for the avenue as he goes into that corkscrew with Skaggs out in front. Robbie Skaggs from Lawrence, Kansas. His best previous qualifying heat, he had a 5th before tonight.
Yeah, you look at the speed that he's carrying down the straightaways. This kid's got everything that it takes to be a champion and also to win this race. He's not making stupid mistakes, and now we have Michael Pichon moving into second place. This could change things. So, you know, Pichon's got a couple things on his mind. 1, the championship, and 2, trying to get out and get away. So if John Dowd does come through the crowd, he doesn't have to deal with him.
Pichon just making an unusual mistake as Deegan now back out in front of Mikel Pichon. They're quite a ways away from Robbie Skaggs. What a thrill that might be in a 5-lap shorter race than normal on this long track here in Charlotte.
Well, he's got a great opportunity. Here's a replay on Pichon getting squirrely coming out of the corner. I think he just got a little bit high-sided in that rut. He wasn't leaning into the corner all the way through, didn't follow through there, and he did a good job to keep it upright. I don't think he's that concerned to get passed back. He knows he's got the speed to get around Brian Deegan, but still, that's going to set him back, and it's going to take longer to catch the leader. And I was going to point out that Skaggs was leading the qualifier, so it's not like he's out front wondering what it's like to be out there. He's already had a taste of it tonight.
A 5.5-second lead as Mikel Pichon moving back into second place. And Brian Deegan, you see, whisking by with Goodman, number 72, battling for third. Well, Skaggs is quite a story, winning his first qualifying heat in Supercross action. Deegan once again having his problems there as Goodman, number 72, cuts inside. He has trouble standing up. Goodman during the qualifying heat went off the track into a lake, of water that was formed off the track.
Here we see Michael Pichon now starting to put a lot of time on Skaggs. He's reeling him in, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You got one young lion that's going for his first win, and then you got somebody who's a veteran who won this championship last year. Is he going to try to risk it and fight this kid hard, or is he going to sit back and wait a little while?
Well, I have the feeling that if Skaggs lets him by, he'll never catch him.
Exactly. Skaggs has got to fight for it, but Skaggs has got speed, so I don't think he's going to give it to Pichon. I think that you're going to see a good race right here.
Dowd on this lap, incidentally, has moved from 11th to 8th position. He is way back. All Pichon has to do is finish in front of John Dowd to win the 125 East Crown. Number 1, you see him there, Mikel Pichon with 5 wins on the season. He won the title last year with 3 wins, pursuing Robbie Skaggs.
He's starting to gain a lot of time. Pichon's just a little bit faster here and there. He's using the brakes a little bit more, driving into the obstacles, into the corners just a little bit more, and just little by little starting to gain a lot of time. But from the looks of Skaggs, the way he's doing the jumps and everything, he looks pretty comfortable and confident out there. And either way, if he does get passed by Pichon, this is a fine ride for him. And we already saw Pichon make a mistake once, and the rider got him back. Perhaps Skaggs, if he stays close.
Here goes Pichon, leaps into the lead, into the first corkscrew. Mikel Pichon back on top now, and he's such a smooth rider under these conditions. He doesn't let the pressure usually bother him, although last week, John Dowd was able to take advantage of a Mikel Pichon mistake while Pichon was leading.
You know, a lot of times when we get into a race, David, if I ever got a good start, and you came charging from behind, it was easier for me to almost let you by and then start chasing you again. So we might see that out of Skaggs.
We'll be right back with the finishing action of our 125 main event from Charlotte, North Carolina after these words. Welcome back. The future stars of Supercross on the track right now for the 125 main event, as we've got, some hairy action trying to get by. Deegan was Goodman. Goodman flying sideways by him. And what a battle for third place here. Michonne and Skaggs are leading.
Great battle now. Ramsey moving up in there. Sheik moving up in there. So it's
Dowd, yes.
Fantastic battle. Dowd caught all these guys, which really changed the complexion of that battle. Now they're all scrapping, and you can bet that this rider's vision, because everyone's taken so many different lines, it's got to be poor. And even if Dowd at this point had the speed to go up and challenge Michonne, he wouldn't have any vision to do it with.
Michonne with an 8-second lead on Skaggs, and Skaggs has about the same on the third-place rider, Rick.
Yeah, if you look at John Dowd right now, you can see how much roost he's been eating this whole moto. Like David says, his vision and his ability to see might be hindered. So Michonne's got a big lead, so now what John Dowd has to do is just push his way into second place and hope for Michonne to make a mistake. But he's doing a dynamite job running that Yamaha from the back to the front.
Sheik, Ramsey, and Dowd battling it out. Scott Sheik has performed well recently. In fact, he'd been on the podium a couple of more times if he hadn't had last lap mishaps in the last race and at Indianapolis 3 races ago. But he had a podium and a hole shot down in Tampa.
You know, I've been in this position that John Dowd is in. He knows that he's fighting against Michonne for the championship, and right now his hands are tied. Michonne's way out in front of him, and so he's thinking, what can I do here to make something happen? And there's really nothing he can't. Just ride his best, jump into second place, and like I said, hope for Michonne to make a mistake or have a mechanical failure to take this championship into the next event.
Really, it just all came down to the start, and whenever Michonne needs to start, he gets it. And Dowd has just had a tough time getting off the line this year. He said he'd been trying a lot of different things, but nothing really seemed to work. He couldn't do it consistently, and again here tonight when it really mattered, way back in the pack, having to come from behind again.
It's coming down to a battle with Sheik and Ramsey, and they've both been very close in the point standings. But for Ramsey, moving up those points is very important, because with Ferry out of this race injured, Ramsey could move into third in the points. What a great move for a privateer on the Suzuki out of Winston-Salem.
And here we're watching John Dowd, and if you notice, watch the 2 riders in front of him. They're sort of playing follow the leader, and you see John Dowd trying extreme inside, extreme outside. He's doing everything he can, and you have to commend him for that, because this track, if you get way offline, you could be taking a big chance. And right there, look at that path. He got by both riders in one jump, so he's got to be commended.
John Dowd trying to finish up as best as he knows how.
That was a case of not following, and he was just in the right place at the right time, where Sheik and Ramsey kind of neither one of them get over that double jump very good. Dowd had just enough different line to be able to get over the double, which enabled him to get over that big plateau. So solidly into third, and I think he's got plenty of time to go ahead and catch Robbie Skaggs. But Skaggs is doing a pretty good job up there in second. He hasn't lost much time to him.
One good result in having a little wider track here in Charlotte at times.
Well, you know, earlier we were talking about the mud and the conditions that were so bad because of the storm we had earlier today. But right now, tonight, the track is dried out. It's pretty much like a Lomi motocross track would be in practice. So I think you're seeing optimal track conditions right now. The riders are going a high, low, but there are a lot of established lines, and those are the quick lines, but you see people doing a lot of different things.
Michonne going by the mechanics area right there, and Chad giving him the signal board plus 10 seconds. 10-second lead over Skaggs, and just to be smart, championship's yours. All you gotta do is keep it on 2 wheels. Even if he fell right now, he could get up probably and still win this thing, but no big mistakes.
Here's the Honda stopwatch to get an interval between first and second place. And we'll move it back to 5th place. These long laps, of course, we won't keep it in for the entire lap time.
Noticed it in the background, getting ready for the 250 race. Phil Lawrence running. Says he likes to run before the race and get warmed up. There was a shot of it, if anybody saw.
Well, a 29-second, well, actually a 30-second lead over 5th place, and when you got something like that, you can really relax.
Track really starting to dry out now. The guys have done a super job to keep it dry. They did a lot of work on it after practice, where it was just horrible. to try to pull some of the sand out, put it in other areas, and the track's actually getting really nice.
Pichon with a 12-second lead over Skaggs. Skaggs now with only a 3-second lead on John Dowd.
Now Dowd's definitely putting the pressure on. You can see how fast he's going through that sweeper right there, making up a lot of time in places. In the beginning, he was forced to take a lot of lines that he didn't really want to have to take because everybody else is in his line, and he was getting roosted. There he's lapping Jeremy Buell. And now he's starting to get over these doubles clean. He gets over that plateau into the corner, keeping pretty good momentum. John Dowd's an excellent mud rider, and he's really starting to shine right now.
Well, you know, John Dowd had nothing to lose when he came off that start in a bad position. You know, him and Pichon touch coming into the first turn. So he's just going for it. When you got that kind of momentum, David, you know you come from behind. In fact, at Daytona, I watched you come from almost last place to second. Once you got that drive on your side, there's almost nothing can stop you. But in a similar situation, I had gotten a good start, and I was out in front, and there was really nothing that we could do as far as the race was concerned. You just had to race for second that time.
And just like Dowd is right here, I was hoping you were going to fall.
Well, last week was a great win for John Dowd. He's learned a lot from his rivalry with Pichon.
And he was actually putting in a little bit faster lap times, but you know, again, he had to because he was behind me. So you know, that was good. I finally got the situation I was looking for, and you know, I was able to handle it, you know, fairly well. I felt pretty strong, you know, physically wise and stuff. I went right to the end pretty good. I was able to, you know, to keep up the fight to the end of the race.
And keeping up the fight's important for him. He's not a very aggressive personality, but a wonderful person and a very talented rider.
You know, and John's not the youngest guy on the circuit, so, you know, I really admire him because once he got that confidence, that first win in the mud at Hangtown, he's really come alive, and he's been around for a long time. So, you know, there he goes right into second place, and now he's in a position to just kind of go after Pichon as much as he can, but you know, he's got to hope for a mistake out of Pichon.
A big mistake with at least a 13-second lead right now. Mikael Pichon looking to wrap up the 125 Eastern Division title in style with a victory here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
As he went by the mechanics area, he was lapping Tommy Clowers. Clowers' ride without goggles threw him away to the mechanics area, and it's just about impossible. Here's the replay of the pass. Dowd just got a great drive out of that rut through the corner. Perfect balance. He was able to accelerate, clear that up onto the top of the plateau, off the double into the corner, and that's the difference. Skaggs is going good everywhere, but there's a few jumps that he's been a little tentative to tackle, and now it's dropped into third place.
You know, Skaggs has been running all day. He had to run a preliminary, a heat, and all that, so he's a young guy. He might be fatiguing a little bit here, and with getting a hole shot, you know how you hold your breath, David, and you really get real tight, so fatigue might be a factor with him.
White flag lap. As
Also,
John Dowd comes across, he's starting to cut in, but I don't think he has enough time even on this big track.
Yeah, also experience, I think, Rick, for Skaggs. I mean, he hasn't been up there with these guys. In his heat race, he sure looked good, but with these guys running ahead of him, you get intimidated, and now he's kind of gone through that next phase of getting an opportunity to go up there and try to beat him. Now he knows what it feels like, and probably if he has this opportunity again, he won't be that nervous.
It'll be interesting to see if he can hold on to a platform position right now, because on the podium, I should say, because he only has a 3-second lead on Ramsey, and Ramsey is trying to drive up those point totals.
Yeah, lots happened in this race. You know, if it stays the way it is, Michael Pichon has proven that he deserves that #1 plate. John Dowd has learned how important being in the front on the start is, and Skaggs has learned, you know, to relax a little more the next time around. But watch John Dowd. He's making a charge.
John Dowd is very close, dangerously close to Pichon. I'm not sure if Pichon realizes that Dowd is close as much as he has. He doesn't have that far to go, but he's got a couple of lapped riders in front of him, so it's not over yet.
We might be able to pick up Dowd in the back of this, you know, as Pichon goes to take the checkered flag, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen tonight.
Pichon coming down the straightaway right now. #1 will retain his #1 plate if he stays in front of John Dowd.
Makes you wonder what would have happened if they got off the line pretty much together.
The checkers for Mikael Pichon, pardon me, as John Dowd cuts across just about 2.5 seconds behind the 125 East champion.
That's got to be bittersweet for John Dowd. He rode a phenomenal race, but just came up one peg short.
And we'll hear from our winner, Marty Reed, sloshing his way to the podium. All that and more when we return. The 125 just concluded. Mikel Pichon polishing off a championship here in the East in style, winning it with John Dowd, a game second. Robbie Skaggs, his best Supercross performance in 125 in his lifetime. Nathan Ramsey, Scott Sheik rounding out the top 5. And as we look at the infield area, Marty Reed is with our defending champion and champion again.
Hey. 2 times in a row. He's going to wear the #1 plate, and they're throwing up the T-shirts. First off, Skaggs gave you all you could handle, didn't he?
Yeah, he worked very good. That's the first time he was in front of me. I didn't know where he was, and that was a very tough race. You know, I got not a good start, and at the end of the race, 2 laps before the end, I didn't jump the triple, and I didn't jump many jump. I didn't do it, so I saw that he came back so fast. The last few laps I was scared, making a lot of mistakes, and the track was not very easy tonight, and that was a tough race, but I'm very happy I got 6 wins this year, and that was a good ride.
Let's bring mechanic Chad Watson here. Chad, congratulations to you too, because this is a team effort.
Yeah, it is. We the whole team, me, Mitch Payton, Mikel, his father, everyone's worked really hard this year, and it's paid off.
All right, now this is a great honor for me. I get to give you this 2nd year in a row. Hold it up there. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm very happy because it's over now for me in the 125 class. I'm gonna think for the future now in 250 for next year, and I'll try the same thing like I tried the first time I came here. It's win even next year. I will try very hard to win.
Your champion for 1996, the #1 plate, Mikel Pichon.
As we look at the Suzuki point standings now, Mikel Pichon taking the 125 Eastern title by 27 points. At least he has a 27-point lead going into the final round, the East-West confrontation at St. Louis, which has only a possible 25 points for a win there. So he takes it at least by 2 points as we see Mikel Pichon flying through the air. Ramsey and Sheik moving in front of Ferry in the top 5. When we return, the battle for the big bucks. The 250s are next. Can Jeremy McGrath win his 13th in a row? We'll be back in a moment. For your bike. It's been a magnificent year for #1 Jeremy McGrath, winning his 4th consecutive Supercross title, and is so far pitching a perfect game on the season. 12 wins in 12 races. This is number 13. Will it be lucky 13, Rick Johnson and David Bailey?
Well, I tell you, he's got a lot at stake. The motivation it's got to be there because he can set a record that I think no one will ever beat. But he's already wrapped up the championship last week. The big purse and the big money is already in his pocket. So it's just ego now. And obviously Jeremy's got a big one, and he has plenty of talent to pull it off.
The Suzuki starting grid as we see all of those who made the main event here in the Charlotte, North Carolina Motor Speedway, and many of the riders deciding not to take a parade lap, gentlemen.
I think Kevin Windham is going to be a real threat out there after watching him in the semi and finding out all over the track was better. He was so much faster than the guys in the heat races. He may be a factor with a good start.
Let's go down to Marty Reed, trackside.
Well, guys, we've been listening to you three all night long up there in that warm, cushy booth talk about how nice the track conditions really are. We want to show you what we're really dealing with while you've been sucking on those brats and the soda pop up there. Take a look at this stuff. I have walked out of my shoes twice already, and all of us are sliding around so much that we've already been notified by telegram that we failed the audition for Ice Capades.
Nice going, Marty. Way to hang in there, partner.
They did tell me, though, that there is an opening for a trio with bow legs. But you got to have the bow legs, and I said, I know the guys who qualify.
Well,
nice pants, Marty.
I mean, yeah.
Hey.
Going to start a new fad.
Now,
obviously, those riders choosing not to take the parade lap didn't want to.
Like we said earlier, some riders, if you go out there and you pack some mud up in your tires and under your bike, you might not get the start that you're looking for. But with as much as the weather has cooled off and the wind has blown, the track has changed, the lines are completely different. So I would have elected to take a parade lap. How about you, David?
Definitely. I want to take a parade lap, if nothing else, just to be warmed up good and to see just how that track has developed. If the line that I thought was so good for me in the heat race is actually still there, I bet you it's not. And the guys that didn't take that, I'll have to find out. Jeremy knows where to go. He's got, in case he gets that whole shot, he's going to settle right into the fastest line. And I don't know, the way he looks so far with that start, I don't know if anyone can touch him.
They're looking down on the bike of Jeremy McGrath now. Skip Norfolk in back.
They're just making sure he's lined up perfect in that rut. And saw, I was noticing a lot of the guys that went over in front of the starting gate. They're not allowed to go out there and mess with it. But he went out and kind of took it real easy and made sure he rode through that rut perfectly straight, so when he gets out over the gate, he get a good start. I noticed with the 12 victories, he's got V12 on the back of his pants.
Steve Lampson injured, of course, and Mike Gosler was helping out Skip Norfolk and getting things just straightened out as far as the bike is concerned. You see Ryan Hughes is in the lineup. He's going to try to make a go of it after hitting hard after coming off the finish line.
Yeah, you can almost look at his posture and tell something's been knocked out of Ryan. So I don't think his confidence and his strength and energy is going to be as high as it would be if he wouldn't have had that crash. But Rhino's the kind of guy that he'll give it everything he's got every lap.
And that could be a blessing in disguise too, Rick, because a lot of times guys get sick and they do really good because their expectations are lower. And they don't go out there and put the kind of pressure on themselves that forces them to ride tight. And that's what happened to Ryan in
hometown native Damon Bradshaw. I think it'd be awful, though, to go out there with chipped teeth and think that your jaw is broken. You know, I mean, with that jarring action on those type of things. Now,
Ryan's the guy that can pull it off, though.
Jeremy McGrath. Charlotte was Jeremy's first ever 250 main event. He finished 10th that year, but went on to win the 125 championship.
You see the team right there between Jeremy McGrath and Skip Norfolk. That, you know, that's your wingman right there. And Skip is behind him 100%. Everything he says, every little pat on the back, every little rub on the shoulders, signboard sideways. Let's see what happens.
Okay, and they start to rev up now. Can Jeremy get a good start in the muck that we saw Marty Reed in? He stays pretty straight. It's Jeremy McGrath out in front. Cuts off Mike Brown. Larry Ward is also there, number 6. Mike Brown, number 9, though, as Jeremy looks back to Brown and just takes off like a rocket down the straightaway.
Well, here we go again. You know, Jeremy, the guy has no flaws. He killed him in the qualifier. Got a great start here in the main event. So if he makes a mistake, which it's very rare that he does, that's when we're going to see the race.
Already pulling a tearaway just to make sure he's got even better vision. A lot of times they'll put a few more on in case they don't get a good start, but it kind of clouds up your vision a little bit. Right here, Mike Brown again, just like in the heat race, right on his tail.
And Larry Ward right behind him. Honda of Troy looking great coming out of the qualifying heats.
Definitely. You got the privateer team of Honda of Troy. You know, they do have some support from Honda, but I wonder how much faster that factory bike makes you go. So if they switched, how would it be?
Ryan Hughes just got by one down rider as they entered the corkscrew. Doug Henry went down.
He took him down. He went in and took the inside line away. Henry left him just a little bit too much room, and Ryan didn't really try to leave him very much more.
Yep.
And Henry went down, so he'll be coming from last.
So here to finish up the first lap as they go down to the far end. We see Larry Ward, number 6, and Hughes is hounding him.
You know, this is a track that Rhino likes. It's a fast, aggressive track, so you have to be strong to be able to, with all this traction, the bike wants to fight back with you. So I think this could be a good track for Ryan.
Brown is holding with Jeremy McGrath as they cross the finish line to finish the first lap. Larry Ward and Ryan Hughes battling for 3rd. And Greg Albertine in 4th as they come across Emig in 5th.
I really think it's going to help Brown relax, knowing that he's got his teammate, Larry Ward, back there behind him. It'd be a lot different if it was Hughes or Emig or LaRocco or somebody else that he's a little bit more unfamiliar with, maybe a little bit more intimidated by. So perhaps that's letting him relax and focus more on Jeremy McGrath at the moment.
Larry Ward, Honda of Troy, 25 years old, out of Florence, South Carolina. He's probably got some fans here from South Carolina. Taking a 3rd in Dallas after a very difficult start of the season. Skip, he's given the sign now. Brown and Ward behind you.
See, so right now, Jeremy's got a perfect picture of what he's got going on. When he goes into these little hairpin turns, he can look back and see what's going on. But right there, you see Ryan Hughes and Larry Ward starting to go at it. And an interesting fact, where Ryan Hughes cased it on that trip, on that double after the finish line, he rolled it this first lap. So if that's in his mind and hold him back, it'll be interesting to see if he goes after it this lap.
Okay, McGrath, Brown, Ward, and Hughes. That order as they start to pull away from the rest of the pack.
These guys got a huge lead, like you said. They're so far ahead of 5th place, who I think is Ezra Lusk at the moment. I mean, when you got the lap times about the same between the best guys up front, to make up 10 seconds is pretty unrealistic. Maybe when they get into lapped riders, but because the main event's shortened, And this track is so long, they probably won't see very many left riders tonight.
Answer your question, it's Greg Albertine, same color.
Okay, well, Suzuki. Way at the other end of the stadium, the track. This track is so big, it's hard, as I mentioned before, the mechanics, hard for the mechanics to point out their own riders.
And a pretty good battle behind him with Wyndham coming on strong.
Yeah, you look at Jeremy McGrath, he's dotted all of his I's and crossed all of his T's. He's doing everything right. He got the whole shot. He had his helmet prepped in case he got a bad start. He had the good tear-offs and roll-offs, plus the rag in the side of his pants. So he did everything right, just like he's done every race this year.
And just when everybody thought that, well, maybe it's the mud that's going to level the playing field and give other guys, perhaps like Doug Henry, an advantage, he goes out and just proves everybody wrong once again. And it looks like it could be number 13, the way he's starting to open up a little bit of a lead now.
Of course, they slow down going into these corkscrews, but that trackside camera really shows what kind of speed they're getting on the straightaways.
Yeah, they're carrying a lot of speed in these little short chutes because they need to. And also, you got to look at the track now. It's got perfect traction, so they can shoot out of these turns really hard, and also they can brake really hard coming into the turns. So actually, the track's at an optimum right now.
We're looking at Larry Ward, currently in 3rd place, Honda of Troy.
He's got a pretty good record here in Charlotte. I think he's comfortable with this kind of soil. He knows what it's like when it rains. You can tell by just the color of the dirt what parts are kind of soft and mushy, what parts you're going to get good traction on. And Larry Ward, also Ezra Lust riding around this area, of course, Damon Bradshaw. So Larry's in a good position right now. He knows he's got a podium, and it's his teammate in front of him. And perhaps later in the race, if Hughes starts to apply that pressure, Larry Ward, to stay on that podium, he's going to go out, have to perhaps get a little bit physical with his teammate in order to make a pass. And Hughes almost going down right there.
Let's get on to Marty Reed.
Down here with Wyatt Seals, they said that he almost went down. What do you think about his ride with Henry?
Pretty impressed right now. I know the guy's in a hell of a lot of pain. Big old cut on his face, and I mean, there's nothing more to say. He's just tough.
You better get out there. You got to give him the sign. He's coming by here real soon. We should tell you they have not stitched that chin yet. It's going to be done as soon as this race is over.
You know, Ryan Hughes, you know, that guy, he is proved to have so much valor, you might call it. He always comes back and he never says die. Last year at the 125 championship, when he lost his chain, he pushed his bike across the finish line. This is one tough kid, but this is who he's got to go after.
Jeremy McGrath is our leader by 4.5 seconds, almost making it 5, and we'll be back after this. Welcome back to Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got 10 laps remaining here in the 250 main event. We are looking into the battle for second place as Jeremy McGrath now with an 8-second lead out in the lead, but it's a battle between Mike Brown and his teammate Larry Ward, and it's Hughes who's gone down. We noticed him fading and losing a position to Greg Albertine. Now he is down, and that just might be the deciding factor for him to pull off the track. As we take a look, there he is. He's back on the track, number 5.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if he went down or not, but he's definitely riding around slow, and I think it's just he's way too much pain to continue this. I thought he might have just been taking a little bit easy, figuring, okay, well, if I'm ahead of my teammate Emick, I'll hang on to second in the series, and that'll be good in the points chase. But it looks like now it's way too much pain, and even for Ryan Hughes, that must be pretty tremendous.
Mike Brown, whose best finish on the year, is a 7th, and here comes Larry Ward to the inside, number 6. Ward rips it off as he goes by.
He positioned himself perfect. He just had a better drive coming off that set of jumps down the straightaway, carried more speed into the corner. Brown looked over at him like, well, you know, you can have it. I'm not going to fight you for it. He wasn't in a good position, and maybe you can get him back now, but their two teammates way out in front of 4th place, so they're going to have fun out here.
Well, what's just right out of our scene is you can't see Kevin Wyndham is reeling these guys in, so that kid is making a hard charge from the back, and he is really working up on these guys, but they got the momentum. They're racing together.
This would be Larry Ward's finest finish of the year, and after such a dismal start coming off the European circuit with a broken thumb and a late start, really physically, this would be a good boost if he could have some nice finishes here to end the season.
Larry Ward has always shown really a lot of brilliance when it comes to short bursts of speed, like this little area that he was just jumping. But let's take a look at Jeremy McGrath. Everything that he's doing, he's very fluid. not getting too excited if his wheel pops out of a rut or anything like that. He just flows with it, and he's concerned about the lap riders and everything on the track.
Rick, Jeremy is so balanced. You know, there would be some people with tremendous confidence that Jeremy has step over that line and maybe accidentally ride a little bit over the edge.
Well, when you start winning as much as he has, which no one's felt that except him, you know, I've had my streak, and David has had his streak as well. Sometimes you think you can do anything, but I think the key to Jeremy's success is not just his riding, it's the balance of his life. He likes to have fun, he likes to ride, he likes to train, but he doesn't overdo it in any one area.
One of the biggest keys to McGrath's success, I think, is, as you mentioned it earlier, Rick, mechanic Skip Norfolk. And we asked Skip how they were dealing with this mounting pressure to win them all now.
After Daytona and 7 wins, that was kind of like, well, hey, maybe this thing could actually happen. You know, there's 8 races left, and you're going, well, maybe not. But deep down, you're believing in yourself that, yeah, it could happen. It just rips off 12 wins in a row, and now you're counting them down, 3 to go, you know, hopefully 2 to go. And the pressure's going to build a little bit, but we've had such a great season. We've already clinched a championship. So anything that happens from here on out, you know, you're not expected to win them all. Nobody's ever been perfect. Yeah. And I'm trying to look at it that way and trying to get him to look at it that way. Hey, if it happens, great, let it happen. If it doesn't, you've already accomplished more than you've ever, or than anybody's ever accomplished.
Jeremy McGrath leading this race, looking for his 13th consecutive victory in front of Larry Ward, Mike Brown, Greg Albertine, and Kevin Windham.
You know, Art, everywhere I go, you know, a lot of people in the stock car racing know my past from motocross and that, but almost every second sentence that I get to is, hey, Rick, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. How about that Jeremy McGrath? Everyone from Kenny Wallace to Don Miller, everybody that I talk to, I'm living down here in Charlotte now, so this is all I hear about, which, you know, I'm proud to say I'm associated with the same kind of things that Jeremy is doing. You know, I mean, yeah, it was hard when he beat my records, but now I really want to see, I'd like to see him sweep it because he deserves it. He's a good, clean-cut kid, and he works hard for it.
Now I was watching TV, just watching ESPN Sports Center. You don't see motocross on Sports Center very often. All of a sudden, Jeremy McGrath's on there winning Tampa. And because of his victories, and, you know, he's really brought a lot of attention to the streak, and he's, you know, the other riders may not like the fact that he's winning the majority or all of the races, really, but it's elevated the whole sport, really, and everyone's benefiting from it.
Yeah, there's talks about him, you know, getting on Letterman and different shows like that, so what he's doing will do nothing but raise motocross. It shows right there. Skip Norfolk puts plus 13 question mark, so do what you want, you know. So I think listening to Skip, watching Jeremy, they have the right balance. Honda has a great machine. Those two guys work together. They enjoy what they're doing, and that's tough after you've won so much.
Earlier, Rick, we talked as we see the Honda stopwatch with Jeremy McGrath way out in front. Earlier we talked, Rick, about you getting the Jeremy McGrath and Skip Norfolk together with Honda when they were with Team Green to see if they might enjoy the prospects of joining the support team there. And we were talking with Skip, and Skip had a major decision too. He might have been offered, or probably was going to be offered, a factory job with Kawasaki. Do I go to a support team to get to the place where I want to be on a factory team, or do I take the factory thing right away?
Winning is winning. I don't care what class it is, you want to win, and he knew Jeremy was a winner, so he went with Jeremy.
Good decision. A lot of pressure now. Albertine's starting to put a lot of pressure on Mike Brown for the number 3 spot. And Windham's back there behind these guys. He's starting, like you said, Rick, he's starting to gain a little bit of time. And now Mike Brown wasn't able to do that big double jump, so Albertine picks up 3rd spot. Best finish for him, looks like could be for the year.
What a boost for Albertine, whose best finish on the season is an 9th place finish in the last race, and there he goes down.
Albertine goes down really hard on that triple. Came up a little short, maybe relaxed a little bit, but he came up a little bit short on that, and it shot him right over the bar.
Doesn't look like he's hurt, though, and he was able to get up pretty quick, so he's still, Windham's right there.
He still has 6 laps to try to get back out there, which is possible right now as we take another look.
Well, I think he came up short. He threw the bike a little sideways, which is always a problem. If you're going to come up short and you hit the landing jump straight, you can usually soak that up. The bikes are that good, and these guys know well enough how to ride, and they've come up short before trying new things to pull that off. But he was going a little crooked. There's also a lot of sand down there, so he really stuffed it in there hard.
Kevin Grine was able to get around him fairly easily, but look at Mike Brown. He's not making any time right here. He's looking back, too.
Yeah, I think Kevin Windham is starting to reel him in now, so I don't know if fatigue is playing a factor or lack of interest, because Larry Ward's out quite a ways in front of him. But that was a tough break. And what it looked like to me is that when Albertine came up off the jump, he just lost the back wheel a little bit, David, and that ended the drive going up the face of it, and came up short and tossed him over the bars.
And he lost his goggles, too. Would that be any difference?
Well, yeah, he's challenging Windham right now without any goggles. I don't know how well he's going to be able to do there, but that shows really the athleticism of these guys and how tough they are, especially Ryan Hughes earlier for even trying to ride the main event. Albertine crashing that bag, getting up, and still running around in 5th place with no goggles, challenging Kevin Windham. So it's pretty amazing. But Brown, his best finish of the year, it looks like, and I'm pretty impressed with the way he's ridden so far tonight.
Windham in 4th, Albertine in 5th. That could be a good battle with 5 laps remaining here in this race.
Well, what do we say? Jeremy McGrath has just been dominant, but you have to really commend both of these riders, Kevin Windham and Greg Albertine. After a fall like that, pick yourself back up. Even though he took his goggles off, he probably had some sweat spray the inside, so he had no choice. But both of these riders, I think, learning a lot, and they're dicing back and forth. And this is real heavy dirt, so it's not like sand that you can just blink. If this hits you in the eye, even with your eye closed, it hurts really bad.
You can see he's taking different lines. There he was over on the inside of the straightaway, then he switched to the outside. Every time Windham grabs a handful of throttle, all that dirt goes right in Albertine's face. That's what these visors are for. Also it's for looks, too. If any of these guys ever fall, their visor comes off. Feel like a bowling ball out there is the worst feeling for a motocross rider. At least he held on to that.
Yep.
Jeremy McGrath way out in front. Larry Ward in 2nd place with a long way back before we get to 3rd and 4th. But Kevin Windham is showing very, very strong. Really just trying to gather experience in the 250 ranks.
Yeah, I think what he's doing right now is he's gaining his confidence. Every lap he goes around, he's realizing that, hey, I can ride a 250. It's not too big for me. I'm strong enough, and I have the ability to go after it. So he's doing a great job.
His best finish I can remember was the 5th on the 250, and I pointed out in the semi, I think, that I really, the way he's riding the 125 and the kind of the rider that he is, I would have expected some better finishes from him in the 250 class, and now starting to work his way up the ladder with the 4th if he hangs on to this.
It was interesting in his first race in Orlando, where he got such a great start on the season. He started in 16th and ended up in 7th position, and then didn't ride another 250 race until Indianapolis, where he took a 6th.
Well, before he got a chance to ride a 250 again, he broke his collarbone, so he didn't get back on the 250 with the same kind of confidence I think that he began the year with.
That's right in the middle of that whole section in San Diego. Popped it out.
Now let's see, is that Emick? Emick, these guys wear the same riding gear. It's hard to tell, but Emick, he's got a chance to get around a kind of a wounded Albertine right now, and he knows in the points with his teammate Hughes out, he could really pick up a lot, maybe hang on to 2nd in the series, take it down to the wire.
Well, Hughes is still out there. He's poking around, but you know, he's way back and he's not in any threat of points. But if that disqualification does not get thrown out, every point counts.
What are the chances now? There's a dispute over the fuel in Indianapolis, and I guess they're going to an appeal process right now about it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I wonder how hard Kawasaki's going to fight if it just switches their rotation of riders. I know that Jeff Emming wants to be 2nd because everything is better, the bonus money and that, and also the respect. But
if they fight for it, then you got to wonder how Ryan Hughes is going to feel, though. You know, it's because they're basically going to take it away from him. However, I can't figure out that somebody would be using fuel that you can't use.